wide-ranging display of mulligan choices with the Shadow Priest this season.
Yeah, it feels that as Shadow Priest, you're trying to do the same thing in most of your game plans, which is just build a sticky board. The definition of sticky changes depending on what matchup you're facing. Like versus Garrote Rogue, you might prioritize health more so than Divine Shields because they have a lot of ping effects. But the big factor that changes is that I think Elucia is a high priority keep in this matchup. Not so much versus Handlock and other aggro mirrors, but just because of the way the Rogue's win condition works versus aggro, which is almost entirely dependent on Octobot, you can really abuse those discounts in their hands with an Elucia.
Interesting hand again for Surrender. How's this Desk Imp factoring into things? Because there's there's obviously the interplay with Traveling Merchant and wanting to play it on the same turn to guarantee maximum buffs. But with the potential for 1 or even 2 Raise Deads in the coming turns, is a 0 mana Desk Imp a good or a bad Raise Dead target in this matchup?
Obviously, without gambling, it's below average, but any amount of pressure you can get in the early game, I think you take versus Rogue. The problem is that the Homunculus is not actually going to buff the Traveling Merchant until it wakes up. So Surrender might be holding on for the Desk Imp until 2 turns later, so he gets at least 2 guaranteed buffs for the Traveling Merchant. And as for Posesi, this is probably insta-Octobot versus Priest. The Cult Neophyte is very bad into hero power, so I generally favor just getting the threat on board, and Surrender simply doesn't have anything in his deck that allows him to deal 4 damage all at once.
Yeah, I agree. It's like if they just ping it on turn 2, for example, I think you would still be fine, even though you are reducing card draw cards, which you generally don't want to do with this deck. Just being able to go Neophyte double Swindle the turn after, I think is just putting you so far in the lead.
Surrender's face at an Octobot in there. That was an amazing expression. Clip that, please, for the end of the game replay. Because you can already see exactly how awkward it's making his life. You outlined it perfectly. From his perspective, those are not necessarily card draw cards. They could be Field Contact. They could be zero-cost Aug Merchants, Prize Plunderer.
Yep.
Blow up all at once. He doesn't have an Elucia to really take advantage of those discounts, and nor does he have a good way to, start moving towards his own win condition because he has to get on board. But getting on board means proccing the Octobot.
Yuck. So he has nothing on board after 2 turns. Posesi is just going to quite happily go in here. I do still think it's Neophyte double Swindle, or at least 1, and see what happens. Even with the Prize Plunder in hand, you're still on average going to be filling your hand with such cheap stuff. The curve of the deck is so low. And just look at this hand now. Yes, it's maybe lacking a little bit of card draw, but the Shroud of Concealment should take care of that, and it is just infinity removal.
The Step Octobot is so brutal here. Like, Surrender might have been thinking, okay, if the turn is just Neophyte double card draw, then he can get a decent ping turn going. Yeah. But the fact that the Octobot is coming back means that the next hand is discounted as well. This hand could contain a Field Contact, which means that the rest of the deck is getting drawn. It's a disaster.
And realistically, you can't... Okay, I was going to say you can't afford to ping on this turn. You can, because my first instinct was, of course, double 0 Traveling Merchant just to make a 5/6 and hope that that's able to contest in some fashion. But you could try and take it yet slower and set up for like an even bigger Traveling Merchant where you go, I don't know, double 0. You play your Tour Guide and your Twilight as well. And just play everything and try and raise dead a couple minions that you can play with the Traveling Merchant next turn as well?
That is possible. I think Surrender really needs to just take a gamble on what type of hand he thinks Posesi has. If he thinks there's a Field Contact in there, then going in this turn and giving him the Octobot discounts is going to be really, really bad for Surrender. If it's a hand where it's kind of like this, it's a lot of discounts, but not necessarily game-ending amounts of tempo, then Surrender can potentially go for a bigger swing and try to get there on the back end. He is just going for all of the 0 costs right now, but this is pretty good for Posesi, right? Because any Aug Merchants will be able to clear these up a bit better. Maybe Surrender just hoping that the Raise Dead pool will be enough to buff his Merchant the next turn.
Maybe. Who knows? Crazier things have happened. I guess the one solace here for Surrender, again, is that lack of field contact. Were that to come down in this turn, I think we could just close up shop straight away and move on to game 2. Still terrible for him. He's going to be facing down 2 3-2s and 3 2-1s very possibly on the next turn, which I don't think realistically you can come back from.
I'd say you have some time versus Garrote Rogue if they've used all their card draw.
Sure, yeah, okay.
Garrote. And the Priest Hero power is actually very effective in these situations, especially if he gets to raise dead his tour guide. But Surrender really needs Guardian Aug Merchants of his own because he'll need more ping effects to take down the prize plunderers and all of that. So Posesi here, I don't think there's any reason to hold on to anything beyond a brain freeze here because his game plan is saying, like, obviously the only upside for holding onto these is if I top deck field contact the next turn exactly, which is just 2 and 17. So might as well take any pressure he can get right now, just try to win off of Garrotes and bleeds off the top and be stronger against Lucia.
Okay, so you can at least clear off the 3-2 and the prize plunder on this turn. Then you probably go Raise Dead, and then obviously the Twilight Deceptor becomes active as well.
Yeah, and you're very likely to get a maybe he trades the tour guide before Raise Dead because he'd like to get a tour guide back and spend that last mana on it, I'd say. So if you trade tour guide, you Raise Dead, see what you get. If there's a tour guide again, then the turn happily becomes Twilight Deceptor ping, replay second tour guide, I think. Because the 1/1 minions, like the Death Imp, etc., is really not doing much in this situation, right? He would still hold them for the merchant, I think, because Posesi would just be instead. Okay, going for a Wriggling Horror play instead.
Yeah, just trying to get as much statage on the board, setting up for cheaper and bigger Raise Deads on the following turns with a Traveling Merchant. It's very patient, and I can respect the lines from Surrender as this situation that you were talking about, this fear state for Posesi, it's kind of starting to creep in now. He's, not that far ahead on board anymore, realistically. He can't push that much damage. And if he plays this Brain Freeze, all of a sudden, field contact isn't even that good of a top deck.
Yeah, I mean, Surrender's somehow outvaluing him at the moment. His only real good top decks here are Second Shroud and Secret Passage, I would say. I do think it's worth using the Brain Freeze, though, just to protect the board that he has built. Garrote, probably hold on to it in case you need a combo activator for something. Penflinger's also in the deck, so just any spells that you don't need at the moment are a net benefit, I would say. I think it's fine for Posesi to actually send more damage face, but he does get rid of the 2/2 here, probably just to protect his 1/2 Octobot. It's becoming a board trade battle, but Surrender has a bit of a window to maybe pull it back.
Ooh, okay. Another tour guide's very nice to take off that extra damage on the board, whilst also juicing up that Traveling Merchant yet further.
The Wriggling is maybe not that good here, but if anything sticks later on, especially this Frazzled Freshman, yeah, that could become a major threat with the Wriggling Horror. Alright, Giant Merchant hits the board. Posesi looking for passage. Okazakas is still a good draw as well. Penflinger, I guess it's above average here.
Yeah. I mean, the weird thing is as well that he's also still pushing a fair bit of damage. Prep is an absolute disaster.
Worst draw.
But he's not dead on the following turn, so all of a sudden, do you ditch the board control route and go like, all face, you can push 7 on this turn, and then Garrote into passage so that you can get all the bleeds and kill them that way? It's unlikely, but he's slowly losing this game.
He is. I mean, I honestly thought he would start going face last turn already, trying to win off of the 1 or 2 turns he bought with the board advantage. But it looks like Posesi's all in on trying to top deck passage for value here, saying that I guess he didn't want to be that weak to avoid touched attendant top deck as well. But honestly, those trades aren't even getting him ahead on board here. Maybe just stopping bleeding for one turn. But he was going to lose the board one way or another, so I'm not sure. I felt like he maybe needed to take some risks there. But for Surrender, don't think buffing the Desk Imp really does anything in this situation. So I'd favor just buffing Wriggling and Merchant, pinging the Prize Plunderer, and probably Freshman into 2-1 and then Merchant to the Dome.
Yeah, I'm not trading this Merchant. I don't think I care about 1 damage that much.
There's an argument for holding Wriggling for the Homunculus, but Posesi has telegraphed that he has 2 unplayable cards at the moment. I'd rather push as much damage as possible right now. And the Wriggling also protects the Freshman from dying to Octobot plus Dagger next turn.
True, yeah. Is he pushing 1 less
Imp
damage?
instead.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, this is smart, right? Because it means that there's no good Dagger, or like there's only one good target for either Dagger or Octobot here, which is the
Right, yeah.
Horror, which means Posesi ends up wasting one of his other attacks. But Penflinger, I mean, honestly, that's still an above average top deck for him here, but it's so bad.
Yeah, like realistically, he needed exactly the Passage or the Shroud, as you said, to have any real chance. Like, I mean, okay, you can go Penflinger to kill the 2-1, you play Garrot, and then you send 2 damage face, they're down to 7.
So many.
There are draws that allow you to win the game. Like, you can obviously just go Passage into all 3 bleeds, and then Dagger face will end the game. Like, there are ways to get there still.
But he really only has 1 more turn after this to find it. So it's gonna have to be big money off the top here. Surrender winning off of value versus Garrot Rogue with a double Octobot start. Not often you see that, but that's why you probably still keep field contact even in aggressive matchups. It can't just be one or the other. Oh,
okay.
That's good.
That's
First
pretty
time
good.
in the world, Benedictus good draw.
Yes, I drew patches. I love this deck.
World's first.
Yeah. Well, here it is. The final turn. The one last chance for Posesi. He can... I don't really see any reason to trade. You have a taunt in the way they've used both prize plunderers at this point as well.
It's super niche stuff like Kazakus into 1 cost golem for poison.
Oh, yeah.
Sniping the taunt. It's like really, really tiny things. Maybe that's better to... never mind. Yeah, don't worry. It's so niche that just don't think about it, I guess, here.
That was a contact! That's a contact!
Okay. He has so little mana.
He's got a prep.
Rain
Prep
freeze?
Shroud or
Rain
prep
freeze?
Garrot.
There's no good step targets. Probably just the Octobot, and then you can... Flinging the Octobot does nothing here.
Do you not want to step the Penflinger just so it costs 0 instead of 1? I mean, I guess you can prep first, sure.
Yeah, I think this is good.
Oh my god.
Oh?
Okay. It just needs bleeds. He just needs some bleeds.
Can I highlight Bleed as a card looking for an actual card? But yes, we can. He's looking for the Bleeds. He needs 3 of them.
Oh no!
Oh no!
Okay, so he's going for it this way so that he can play the Octobot, flinger his own Octobot, and play the other one for 0, right?
Yeah. Oh wait, I guess
he's
not. Oh my god, 1 spell damage. Now he only needs 2 bleeds. 2 bleeds. 2
He
bleeds.
can still do it. Oh!
Bleeds. Oh my god, what is this game? Oh my god, there's no time. Passage!
No!
And to play bleeds from the passage. All the bleeds were in the bottom 9. That was stressful for everyone involved, but none more so than Posesi's camera.
Oh, there it is. Bleed, Garrot. Bleed. Oh. Oh. So unfair. So unfair for Posesi. And I think, honestly, a really, really well played turn. That was such a sick ending to the game there, and he gave himself by far the best chance possible. Like, he ended up drawing like 7, 8 cards there or something right on that turn. Like, with the limited mana he had available, that was a lot of card draw he got in and really gave him a shot of actually cheesing out the win. Yeah,
I mean, that game went from 3 turns of hoping and coping for Posesi to straight steering towards the end. He had so many micro decisions to make in the narrowest window of time possible. And if we're going to be super picky about it and knowing that we could never make the right decision in Posesi's actual spot, we are just doing this with caster vision and with perfect retrospect as well. Maybe he could have gone for the play you said, where you discount your Octobot before you play the other flinger. But in the end, if you draw 1 cost card off the top, it works out the same, right? Because you're not able to get more than 1 relevant discount by that point. You're only drawing 1 per turn. And in order to keep drawing, you have to spend a card that was something you wanted to discount. It's just really hoping for bleeds is where it all ended up for Posesi there, but they were at the bottom. He gave it his best shot, but Surrender too, that was pretty well played, recognizing that there was an avenue back into the game if there simply wasn't a field contact, even though Posesi had the nutso card draw and discount opener.
Yeah, I think that was very well played by Surrender. Like, there were 2 turns where he was under the effect of Neophyte, where I was considering going for the Raised Edge, just because it allowed him to activate his second Twilight Deceptor. It put some amount of pressure on the board, but he constantly held off. He was always holding off. Like, even that turn where he just played the Wriggling Horror instead of going for maximum clear on that turn, sent the Penflinger face, the Tour Guide face. It allowed him to set up for these maximum swing turns when he went double Raised Edge, saved his Traveling Merchant for 1 ultimate swing turn and was rewarded for it. I think that was excellent understanding of how to play the matchup from Surrender, and I've almost forgiven him for making 1 mistake in 2 years of play.
Agreed. I think it was easy to fall into the trap of maybe using 1 Raised Dead early, but and also just holding off all the minions for your first Traveling Merchant. But he realized that with 1 Raised Dead in hand and an active Twilight Deceptor, he could get 2 Raised Deads, right? So he could essentially preload the first board, just threw out the 3 1/1s for Posesi to take value trades on, which kind of softened up Posesi's board a little bit, and then have all of those in the Raised Dead pool and still come up with a big Merchant turn. Just, I only see it on retrospect once again, but great understanding from Surrender. And we are entering the Shadow Priest Mirror now, with Surrender on a significantly better hand by a wide margin, I'd say.
Yeah, this hand's looking pretty good. Obviously just missing the 0 costs in order to not lock out the game, but put him in a significantly superior position with the Disciplinarian Gandalf. But Tour Guide and all the rest of his cards are still pretty good.
I think this is still a decent Auntie turn. Like, you'd obviously rather have something to spend your mana, ideally the Twilight Deceptor here, but she's not dead to a ping, and it means very likely 2 Wriggling Horror targets next turn, because Surrender won't want to spend 2 mana pinging a Tour Guide.
Whoa. Okay. Surrender's starting to believe in this hand a little bit more after a not bad, but a bit of an awkward start with having a Dormant Minion and the Wriggling Horror. Tour Guide, not especially something that you want to coin out at this point either. But now with the Desk Imp, we're starting to look pretty strong. So is it ever trade the Traveling Merchant in order to spend your mana more efficiently and try and find another 0-cost minion?
Kind of like that. Honestly, with this type of hand, you probably do spend 2 mana pinging the Tour Guide, whether it comes from that 2 mana trade and play your Tour Guide, so essentially not really using the discount for anything in particular. But it looks like he's holding on to the Merchant, which I'm not really sure it synergizes well with the Ganling game plan. So I honestly liked your idea of trading it and maybe just getting the 1/1 Tour Guide on board right now. Maybe Surrender's trying to save his Tour Guide in case his Ganling sticks. But here's the somewhat of a punish, right? The Cult Neophyte delaying the Ganling turn, but honestly, it's still fine for Surrender. He just gets a good Tour Guide Wriggling turn instead.
Yeah, it kind of works out fine for him. The Tour Guide here is fantastic on this turn, whereas, I mean, obviously if he'd played it last turn, it would have been on board, but then it wouldn't have been possible to go Wriggling Horror ping on the same turn, so whether or not this is what he's planned for, it's worked out great. He's in a really good spot now.
Yeah. And for Posesi, it's a disaster of a hand. He needs something to go with this Wriggling Horror. Even Twilight Deceptor's not that great here. That is mana floated. Does he ever just Voracious for one draw? Oh, I hate it. I hate everything.
I hate everything too.
Looks like he's just searching for Gandling. I'd accept it if he thought that was his only out here.
Oh, but then using the 0 cost makes Gandling worse anyway. Like, everything is bad.
But speaking of Gandling, Starrock, oh my god, Merchant is disgusting here as well. Honestly, the 1-3 attendant for Posesi is just making his life more difficult here.
Yeah, I guess you probably end up using the Orc Merchant just to double clear the board so that they can't have any extra card draw on the following turn. I'd say the difference between a 3-6 Gandling and a 3-5 Divine Shield Gandling, they're both invincible.
Yes, I agree. The Tiny Fin, value tree. I think Posesi conceded. Yeah.
Yep. I think he's just thrown it down. Surrender up 2 games to 0. That was a nice easy one, wasn't it, Surrender?
Just need a highlight reel of Surrender's facial expressions. It's went from, you know, he was very, very upset about the opening turn from Posesi with the Octobot, and all the way to thoroughly embarrassed and scratching his neck because he knew he simply had the better hand. It feels like a long time since we've had these gritty back and forth Shadow Priest mirrors. Ever since Gandling was included, it really just creates such a blowout mechanic. The first one to land one and get value off of it, it's too difficult to come back because there's no spells aside from Raise Dead in the Priest deck.
Well, I mean, I think Posesi did have it in his starting hand, but he threw it away, which, you know, obviously we've talked about being on the play, it becomes a lot worse, and you do, the onus is on you to have a 1-drop. It's much more important to have a proactive play on turn 1. But even then, you know, the option was there for him, I suppose. If we want to have any way he could have come back in that game, because obviously after the mulligan was over, the game had already ended. He just had no avenue back into that one. And so he is going to be switching over to his Brute Demon Hunter. In terms of the list there, he is running the double Immolation Aura, right, in combination with the Guild Trader. So there is some clear potential. He's not purely on the defensive. But even then, you know, there's a reason that he queued this after the mirror. It's not a good matchup.
But Spirit Jailer in the opener is a good way to start. A lot of the time you play that even before the quest in this matchup. Quest turn 2 is decent still, especially if you compare it with a Tusk Piercer.
Yep.
There you have it. Just trying to be proactive here. Surrender with a mega cheap hand. A lot of minions that don't line up well versus Spirit Jailer, but this Wriggling Horror could make that all a lot simpler here. I think he just drops the Freshman here.
Yeah, you still want to buff the high health target rather than just like 0-0 coin horror on this turn, which I think is a little too flimsy.
Yeah, the problem with playing any of the zero cost minions is that the Spirit Jailer gets a value trade, and if you play both of them, it could be trade Hero Power Quest, and that's still a great turn for Posesi, right? So I think Surrender just wants to guarantee that he gets a buff on Frazzled Freshman plus one of the 1/1s, which will happen next turn.
And that's the way it goes. I absolutely agree. Ooh, okay, the hand kind of starting to come together for Posesi, depending on what he gets off this Illidari Studies. But I guess the question then remains, are we playing the Studies on this turn? If you want to get the quest down, which you kind of do, the fact that you can't play whatever you get off of it unless it's exactly the runner is a little awkward.
Yeah, and even the runner, honestly, not that great for Posesi here. I'd value the hero power to damage the Freshman even higher here, just because he has this Immolation Aura in hand. It allows him to potentially sweep up even one more target through the Aura, and the Studies can have a lot more value later on when looking for board clear tools such as I-Beam or even Dreadlord's Bite can be pretty impactful in the matchup.
Oh, what a weird hand for Surrender. Like, I'm hesitant to call it like actively bad, because he can spend his mana proactively for the next couple of turns. But unless he gets Gandling or Voracious Reader or maybe a Lucia, it's going to run out of gas so quickly.
Yeah, the Raise Dead pool will be pretty bad unless he gets exactly the Wriggling Horror back, which is honestly a decent possibility, right? Because this turn will be a 0 cost plus the Wriggles, and then Posesi will want to VT the 1-3 into the Wriggling or use the 0 power.
Unless he wants to go...
Surrender. All face here. Okay. For Surrender, I feel like the game plan is just rely on the top of your deck here. Even though this hand looks super low value, it means that any Voracious is absolutely insane as soon as he gets it.
Yeah.
It means that he is able to Illusia without any worries. So just try and aggro down Posesi where he can. Immolation Aura is the only thing he was really scared of, and unfortunately it was there, but he has plenty of good draws. Oh yeah! Oh yeah! Yeah! Oh my god, the biggest turn you've ever seen.
It's so big! What the hell?
I've got exotic
wares. Imagine raise deading for giants. I know they also cost 0, but these ones are cuter.
Yeah, that's true. Just a strict misplay. I guess Surrender's cute enough already.
He can silence the merchant. It's pretty good, right?
That is pretty good. Man, the Librarian tech coming in clutch.
You never thought it was for that. Thought it was for taunts, but nope.
Nope.
It's to make a 2-3. Strictly incorrect to kill the Murloc here. It's cute.
Leave it alone. What did it do to you? Oh, Posesi.
There you go. Thank you, thank you.
Oh, here's that state I was talking about. The hand is just running out of stuff to do. I know that often as Shadow Priest you end up in this situation anyway around this point in the game. And maybe it'll be enough to get there. Again, this is not a standard old-school removal Demon Hunter that runs plenty of Fell Screen Blast, Immolation Auras, whatever it needs. The 2 Immos are all you get, and with 1 down, Posesi needs to very quickly get to his own win condition to be able to stabilize.
I think Surrender can maybe just get there with a full aggro push here. Gets Wriggle, the 2-3, and the Murloc. Ping the Librarian, but push everything else face. You can even coin the Frazzled Freshman. I don't mind that at all. Just get max pressure.
Would you ever consider VTing with the Merchant instead? Or just ignoring it entirely? Wow.
I mean, I think he'll ping it, but I just don't know what the VT really protects, right? Like, this ping means that Posesi has to make the trade for Surrender, and it's still going to be awkward, right? Because even though Librarian plus Hero Power can get rid of the Merchant, like, if Posesi's using Hero Power that turn, that's pretty good for Surrender, I feel.
Yeah, good point, good point. Okay, so we're still on... haven't completed a single layer of quests, so... Acrobatics plus a trade does get there, admittedly. Or Spirit Jailer able to draw 2 more cards afterwards with the Illidari studies is pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean, you can do both. Make them all cost 0 here, and he gets the Philosophy. That's pretty good. Just put 2 2/4s on... He's not Philosophying it? Wow. He's looking for Brutes, Derek. I would have cut my losses there for sure, but...
Okay, he's got another 2 draws for Brute. Oh no, sorry, it draws over the Crimson Sigil Runner, so it discounts the Outcast effect. There's a Brute!
Oh my god!
Okay!
He is a gamer. Takes the risk, and it absolutely pays off here.
You play the Philosophy, then you play the Illidari Studies, or you can do Illidari Studies, then the Philosophy you get, if you get one, and then Philosophy Brute. Doesn't hit it, so it's only going to be 2.
Oh! Wow.
Wow.
I didn't expect the skull.
Me
what?
neither.
How does he play it?
I don't know.
Whatever.
He has 2 Brutes. That's what matters.
Yes, correct. I think he was just panicking a bit. It was on the rope there. Good draw for Surrender, but I don't think he can get back versus this board. Maybe a Lucia?
It's close. Like, drawing 3 cards here is pretty good. If he can get, hey, there we go, a Lucia or Gandling, something just to be able to apply some pressure.
Yeah. The Deceptor draws nothing, though, because he had the double raise dead turn at the beginning of the game, so probably just gonna be an Illusia turn by herself. Okay.
Oh. Now we stop and think.
Just dump the Brute here?
I kind of like it. It's a 5-mana 6/7 taunt. That's really good against aggro.
Trade over the Voracious. He is so far ahead on board. This just wins. And the hand he gives into an Elucia isn't even that good.
Yeah, exactly. Elucia, as is so often the case with this Shadow Priest, it just locks out your opponent's turn. It's not about getting to steal their hand. But when you're behind on board, locking out their opponent's turn in terms of the cards they can play is fine, because they just hit you with what they have on board and you die.
I wonder.
Yeah, I'm really not seeing it for Surrender. Honestly, that Benedictus makes the Elucia turn even worse. It was already bad, but it gives Posesi a good play from Surrender's hand if he goes for it. So what's the option? Like, he could be thinking, is there anything in Posesi's hand that can help him here? But I really don't think there's anything that synergizes well enough with your hand when you're not playing the quest yourself. Probably just play the Benedictus.
What I'm thinking, yeah, you can, I guess, just start pinging into one of the brutes to try and chip through it eventually.
Maybe if Surrender can Elucia into the second Immolation Aura from Posesi, there's a clear.
Yeah, okay, yeah, sure.
Over 2 turns, assuming the 6/7 goes into the Benedictus, which it honestly doesn't have to here. Posesi can start going all face and be fine, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Or even just take the trade of the 6/2 into the Benedictus and leave your higher health minion in play. Sounds pretty good as well.
What if he just Lion's Frenzy glides here and sets up a 2-turn lethal?
That sounds pretty good too.
Frenzy will have 6 attack by then, right? 12, and he has 14 on board, so he can put Surrender to 1, if I'm not mistaken.
I think to 2, right? Because Lion's Frenzy has 0, so it'll go to 5, yeah.
Oh, right, my bad.
But still, it's a very reasonable way to approach it.
Pleasure doing business.
Just going, not glide,
They will never
but gets the same principle done, right? High attack, Lion's Frenzy. He might end up trading the 6/2 into Benedictus if he's afraid of anything, but I honestly can't think of any outs. Yeah, everything face.
Yep,
Love it.
I agree. Even Elucia, you're just far too far behind on board. If Posesi lets his opponent go
Is it
Elucia
lethal?
into glide, it's fine.
With the hero power? Oh, yeah, it is just...
Oh, there we go.
Never mind.
Even better, yeah. That will also win the game, I think, there for Posesi. A very nice lethal spot, one that I thought he would be a little ways off. But he manages to find. Nicely done, thanks to the Soul Fragments as well, buffing up the amount of attack that he can do on that turn, meaning Surrender is finally forced off of his Shadow Priest. Given that this is once again last hero standing week, once you win with the deck, you keep playing with it. So Posesi now has to win 2 more games with his Brute Demon Hunter. And to be fair, that may have been the hardest one for him. It's a really bad matchup against the Shadow Priest. And now that the 2 remaining decks for Surrender are the Quest Shaman and the Warlock, the Hand Warlock left over, it's 2 arguably good matchups for Posesi. I would debate you on whether it's good against Handlock, but the Shaman I think can be pretty good.
Yeah, I'd agree. Shaman can struggle versus the Turbo Brute start more so than a lot of other decks in the meta, I would say, just because the removal is better suited to deal with wide and small minions. Kind of the same reason Shaman struggles versus Handlock. Yesterday, when Surrender faced Trahizan, he got the win versus the Brute Demon Hunter right off the bat in this exact matchup, so he might be sweating just a little. There's potential for a reverse sweep here, but Surrender is just going to start off with the Shaman. At this point, the Q order really doesn't matter because either of his decks simply needs to get a win here. I don't know if he thinks this is the better of the 2 matchups, but definitely still think it's doable for the Shaman. Like, they're also capable of pressuring versus Brute Demon Hunter pretty hard, and spell damage I find is very relevant in this matchup, whether you get it from the Novice Zapper or discoveries. If you manage to discover a Primordial Studies can help a lot for the Perpetual Flame, because a lot of the time you'll have small minions on board that can maybe soften up the brutes, and then you can catch them in a big AoE at the end.
this looks like a pretty good hand for Surrender. I was actually wondering if you keep the Diligent Note Taker, because the curve of Note Taker into Feral Spirits is actually quite likely to work out against this Brute Demon Hunter, where, again, they run very little removal, and then going Spirits on 3 and 4 is a lot of pressure.
Honestly, I did like that keep as well. I just keep Note Takers so often because I'm such a look for Bloom gamer. Bloom me dude is the new Bloom dude, honestly. But you're right, even if you do miss, that curve was very good against Posesi's specific build, which is not running Soul Shear. His Note Taker would have been safe unless there was an early Spirit Jailer from Posesi, which we do see is there. So sometimes you're then dead to like this trade plus the Tusk Piercer and Hero Power. It's very specific things to play around. But I guess Surrender just looking for a bit more of a consistent curve, which he can go for with Marshspawn into Feral Spirit.
It's a pretty clean curve. Gets himself a decent selection of cards here. You're probably looking at investment opportunity. But again, Perpetual Flame is a weird card because, as you correctly put at the start, it's for big boards of small minions, very wide boards, rather than a small board of very big minions, like the Brute Demon Hunter can do. But it does still do some damage to them. It can get some chip through.
This looks like an Onsta Flame to me, but honestly, I would even consider the Landslide. Probably not with this hand without any spell damage, but that, okay. Surrender goes for option number 3. The Landslide, if you had spell damage, actually stacks really well to deal with Brutes, right? Because you're often overloaded, so it becomes like a 2-mana prior to this round of buffs, Flame Strike.
Indeed.
But obviously, Surrender's hand needs to accrue a lot more resources to actually justify the Landslide. I still thought he would pick the Flame because that's a guaranteed overload card that helps him towards his quest, but maybe he's looking for more specific overload cards from the deck. I'd say Lightning Bloom is high up on the list right now.
And it's going to need to get from his list into his hand very quickly, because Posesi, while he's a little ways off playing the Brute on this turn, Sigil Runner, Peddler traded, obviously, Double Jump, Spectral Sight, Brute guaranteed on the following turn. This is going to be a monstrously powerful play, and if he finds a Philosophy as well, Surrender's going to be far behind.
He really will be, but this is the kind of board state that Shaman often has versus Brutes, right? Let's say Surrender picks up Zapper off the top or from the investment opportunity. There's a potential to clear a multiple Brute board with trades plus the spell damage Perpetual Flame. And if Shaman can clear that first hurdle of the Brutes, they're often pretty safe versus the second game plan of the Brute Demon Hunter, which is the Lion's Frenzy, because they can generate taunts and heal. But let's see if he can first survive versus the Brutes, because I count at least 2 coming down for free this turn.
Yeah, Posesi taking the choice to spend a mana on the Philosophy to give it +1/+1, because otherwise he could have had it reduced to 0 with the quest, which I can respect. I think it's reasonable that you're not going to have anything that you want to spend that mana on. And it still just works out fantastically for him.
Yeah, I love it. Especially just every extra point of health you get versus Shaman is really big. The breakpoints on Perpetual Flame are make or break for them. If they have the spell damage, that means 4 damage, which means that Marshspawn trade and then double trade into the other one means that Perpetual Flame is a full clear. At 8 health, it all becomes more awkward for Surrender, even if he had the spell damage.
It really does, yeah. We're looking for... If you go investment opportunity and hit the Zapper, you can then go trade. Still a little bit short of being able to clear, but because of how you can clear your mana, even Guidance, you'd need to hit like Bloom actually to be able to play anything alongside it. That 1 health is really annoying, even in the best case scenario for Surrender.
I really agree. Honestly, my first instinct would be to just recommend second Feral here, and just delay, but it gets so scary because Posesi is running Immolation Aura with the 2 1/1s on board and the weapon equipped. That really hurts for Surrender here. Just hoping it's not there. As without that card, usually the Brute Demon Hunter has to take VTs on their roots on your Wolves, which just kind of buys Surrender time to still find the spell damage to get the full flame clear, but this Immolation is going to tear that plan to pieces.
So I guess you could theoretically go with the Librarian as well, if you wanted to be able to get max damage face here, and I think for 7 damage, even if you're missing a quest completion on the glide, it's probably worth it. You want to just make it so that you're getting as much damage in at the start, so that when you do go for the Lion's Frenzy, you're able to kill them quickly, but he clearly disagrees, actually.
It was close. I think the glide looked really good there because it also messed with Surrender's hand quite a bit. He
True,
still gets to push 7 face, so Posesi maybe choosing to respect the possibility of heal from Surrender. I think on average this does just work out better.
Okay,
There's a Zapper. A flame off the top.
If you can hit Bloom off of the Primal Dungeoneer, it still doesn't work, does it? Just because you don't have enough mana? Oh, it's
Can't
really
look
close.
at this turn. Everything is awkward here. Like you have to go Zapper Bolt, but then you can't do anything significant with the rest of your mana. It might be forced onto one of the 3 drops just to look for something a bit more efficient, because I don't think Zapper Bolt ever wins the game here.
Well, actually, you can go Dungeoneer, and then if you hit Flame, the Zapper unlocks your crystals, right? So you can still go for the Perpetual Flame, which is probably his best shot, because I believe there's 3 in the deck now, right? After 1 was discovered as well.
No, good catch, good catch. I forgot he was still on quest 1 here. Okay, so this goes from a disaster turn to a decent turn, right? It still leaves 1 Brood up, but Surrender has managed to build 2 minions, both of which, I mean, it's hard for Posesi to clear both unless he wants to send 7 into the 2-3, which he absolutely don't want to do. He is going to get the Kurtrus down, but maybe with a Fireheart off the top, Surrender can clear this.
Oh, yeah, I mean, he did play a spell last turn, okay, so Torrents do become a possibility to clear some of this up.
Our spawn maybe is also decent here. I think Posesi should prioritize getting rid of the Zapper, so hero power that down, 7 to face. So versus a 7-7 and a 7-4, that's actually pretty doable for a Fireheart, I think.
Also, just oh no, it's close. If he leaves up the Zapper, then either Lightning Bolt or Perpetual Flame with the Canal Slogger will be a clear. But if he does clear it up, then it's both the attack and the spell damage are too important on the Zapper.
Wow, he's leaving it up. Unless he's trading 7 into it, which I don't like. Oh, he is. Okay.
Wow, really?
I really preferred hero power there. I don't know.
I would have tried to get 14 more damage face over the course of this game. Obviously, you know, my line originally to silence the Taunt was very possibly not correct because you wouldn't have Kurtrus in play right now. But here, like, you still have to kill them with Lion's Frenzy, right? You need to get some damage face to make that easier.
I agree.
What to do?
Well, he has achieved building a somewhat awkward board state for Surrender here, but it's more awkward because of Surrender's mana restrictions rather than the shape of Posesi's board, right?
So you can just go Marsh Spawn and hope to hit the Torrent is maybe the best you have, yeah.
He'd also take... Flame is still possibly decent here.
Flame's okay, yeah. Landslide is not terrible either. You have to leave the Kurtrus, but it at least takes out the 4-3.
Okay. Surrender going for the guaranteed clear on 1 additional minion. There are a lot of misses on Marsh Spawn, to be fair. But it's going to have to be a major turn next turn. Charge call for something big, because now Posesi, the job is very simple. You look for the Lion's Frenzy. You kill Surrender over 2, possibly even 1 turn. I don't know.
I mean, you just play your Glide now, right? I guess you don't want to outcast it. Fair enough.
Sure. If Surrender hero powered, I guess maybe his hand is a bit awkward. Maybe you can't really make that read, right? Because could be they still spend their mana this turn, but the overload just stopped them. But
I mean, you know,
happens.
Yeah, you know he's got an elemental in hand and a nature spell. That's all the information that you can divine about this hand.
Oh, Brutes and Frenzy. Okay, Surrender can get out of this one.
Yeah. I mean, I think this very possibly is just lethal on this turn, depending on what the acrobatics draws. It's so close to it, if not.
Not much time left. But we know Posesi, he is king of bailing out and still winning because it's just the right thing to do when you don't have time.
As long as he gets these attacks face, we're happy. That's fine. Triple brute played and 16 damage phase plus the Kurtrus as well. This one is just an absolute wrap.
17, of course he fits the hero power in. Just another day at the office for Posan. Alright. Can you get this to 8 drop? Does more Forge Fiend accomplish anything? I don't think so.
Yeah, you can. Well, yeah, you can get it to 8, and then if you get, well, you obviously can't get Terralion. It's only Shaman spells. The Alakir doesn't do it. Yeah, I just don't see anything.
No littering.
You get Terralion, you can clear an 8-9 and another 8-9, and you go up to 10, and then you're dead. Yep. That's just game. Surrender gonna do his due diligence, I suppose, and look for it. Even with the other taunt, he would be dead. And we didn't even get to see what the Discover was. Unfortunate.
Unfortunate for us. Unfortunate for Surrender as well, though, because after losing that first game with the Priest against the Demon Hunter, now he's lost another one with the Shaman, and he's left with Game 5, Demon Hunter versus Warlock. Surrender, I believe, has the slightly newer version of Handlock that I think a lot of players are liking on ladder. I've seen Xerius, who's played a lot of Handlock, talk about how much he likes this list with cutting a Netheron, sticking in the Rune Mithril Rods, and having Pantharas in there as well, because it accomplishes a similar thing to what we saw from the full-on delete Warlock from Give Please earlier today. I think it gives you a very nice matchup in the Handlock mirror, and it also still gives you a nice matchup against aggro, because the Runed Mithril Rod just gives you so much more flexibility in how you are going about the removal game plan. How it stacks up against the Brute Demon Hunter, though, is an entirely different question, because without a Netheron, maybe the lower amount of threats will come around to hurt him rather than help him.
Maybe. I mean, I thought that would be the case in Give Please's match a while ago versus Brute Demon Hunter, but he made it look easy. He didn't even need any threats. He just made sure to remove everything on the other side and just retain enough healing such that he wasn't dead to Lion's Frenzy. Also, no Strahd Viper here in Surrender's list, so it does have to be out healing Frenzy if it does get to that point, rather than just destroying it. But he's not quite gone too hard in either direction of trying to counter with your own threats or just go all in on card draw and removal, so I'm not sure if this somewhat more middle of the road approach will help him or hurt him, but we shall see. Posesi starting off with the Tusk Piercer. Actually, Surrender also with a weapon in the opener. Looks good for both players.
Yeah, Surrender's starting hand is kind of insane, not gonna lie. The Coin Rod into Backfire is the absolute dream. It could obviously offset some of the downside that we've seen to the Flesh Giant nerfs as of late. If you're getting those reduced in cost, you're tapping every turn. His entire hand is going to be incredibly cheap, which enables the aggressive options, but also the defensive options. Soul Rend, Touch of the Nathrazim. If he can get himself... Oh, sorry, I was going to say if he can get himself Tamsin to go alongside this Soul Rend to play it twice, that would be huge. But of course, he's not running Tamsin.
Yeah, all the Korean players have cut Tamsin Roam, and it's mostly based on our speculation because they realize that Tamsin sometimes has anti-synergy with the Rod, where if your cheap spells go to 0 cost, Tamsin can't actually end up copying them. I still think she's probably worth running because Soul Rend will never get to 0 unless you get 4 Rod charges on it. That is very unlikely to happen. And that's a very, very powerful card to copy. Unstable Shadow Blast also likely still copyable. But we'll see. I'm hoping for Surrender to prove me wrong on the build. And this is definitely the good opening hand to start through it. Posesi, oh man, 1 draw short of being able to play a Brute this turn.
Yeah, he could go for the Sigil Runner if he wanted to try and play it. But I think he's just, as he's shown a few times, not taking that big risk and setting up for a stronger turn next turn rather than a big gamble on this turn.
Yeah, making sure he can complete Quest 2 as likely as possible. Ooh.
Okay. You probably don't want to play the Touch of the Nathrazim anymore, because I think not only is it good to have a bigger hand, but it's also very possibly going to be used alongside the Soul Rend to actually clear some brutes rather than just damage them.
I agree. The 1/1 is not a threat at all to surrender, and keeping the gold Charonol as cheap as possible is definitely worth it. I'm interested in the Cult Neophytes, honestly, because surrender could go for a zoo-type game plan. Again, it's somewhat foiled by the immolation aura that these Brute Demon Hunters are running now, but could potentially disrupt Posesi while getting a lot of pressure online. Philosophy and a couple trades available to Posesi here. Could be 2 brutes this turn.
Yeah, it looks like this time he is prioritizing the mana, because again, this philosophy will go to 0 once the quest is completed this time. And so rather than outcasting it, he's realizing mana is fairly tight on this turn, which I think is, again, just showing good understanding of the matchup, flexibility in terms of how this deck works, and should allow him to get in card draw and the brutes all at the same time.
Yeah, not gonna... Well, he doesn't need to spend the Spectral Sight here, right? Because he can just play Philosophy and get 2 brutes down and retain enough card draw to do the next part of the quest. I don't know if that little gesture from Posesi is indicative of him thinking he made a mistake, but this turn still looks okay, right? You miss out on the brute buffs, but we already talked about how he wanted to be mana efficient instead.
Yeah, okay, get the acrobatics in the double eyebrow brute. Yeah, see, it's fine.
Now surrender needs a little bit extra to clear the full board at the moment. He can tap, look for something a bit... Well, he won't actually get the second rod discount just yet, so maybe this is just Soul Rend and then Touch Neophyte.
Yeah, definitely what I'm looking at. It's annoying to dump so many cards, but the thing is, maybe even at this point you go like Touch first and then Soul Rend, because with double Baron Scavenger in hand, I just want to delete my deck as quick as I can. The fact that these are going to cost 0 even rather than 1 because of the strange, I'll call it, interaction with Rod, whether or not it's intended, is just such a huge swing turn for you later on.
That's true. It's 1 card closer to that mark or 4 health. It's honestly quite difficult to evaluate which is more important, because we've talked about how there's no Tamsin in this deck, so even if you do clear the Brute hurdle, what if you don't have enough health into the Lion's Frenzy game plan? Oh, he taps. It's not a Soul Run turn. Okay, it's Null and Touch instead. Okay, this still works, right?
Yeah, okay.
Clears off basically the same amount of damage as the Soul Run play.
Sure,
and leaves in a tap, which is very important. Okay, I just like this better, actually.
Yeah. It, of course, means that he isn't damaging one of the brutes, but I think that should be okay, right, for later on, especially now that he's got the Raised Dead, so that he can guarantee himself an extra null to be able to chew through that on the following turn.
And the Neophyte is quite disruptive to Posesi here, looking to complete final quest. It's still possible, right, with the just glide, or he could start Sigil Runner if he likes.
Yep, very possible.
Looks like he got the runner back. It was green border.
Ooh, okay, yep, just 2 mana Sigil on this turn. Probably good. Although, maybe you want to save it with Kurtrus. I could hear the argument for hero power, yeah, sure.
That's sort of the Neophyte. Fair enough, this does protect the Brute from quite a few breakpoints.
Yeah.
As for Surrender, 1 more tap will activate the second charge of his Rod, which means 0 cost Panthera and a free draw again, so I'm pretty sure that's how the turn will start. But he is looking for a more convenient way to deal with the 6/7.
Yeah, you probably start Raised Dead first as well, just as like an optimization, and then if you get the null, which I think you're guaranteed to, you have a lot of draws that are going to allow you to clear the board.
True. Just get 2 cheap cards back into the hand. Works out very nicely for Surrender, even though he hasn't found any giants yet.
Whoa, it's all so close. That 7 health on the Brute is so annoying.
So what if you start Knoll and then go digging with Panthera? If you find a nicer way to deal with the Brute, you do that. But if you don't, you just Soul Rend. It's obviously kind of a bad Soul Rend, but it's 3 cards deleted from the deck, right? Oh, sorry, starting Panthera is the same because the Knoll just goes back to 1 anyway.
Yeah, I think I like it. You could dig with the Mortal Coil on the 1/1. If you don't assume you're going to get another target for it, then it's kind of the same as deleting a card from your deck with Soul Rend anyway, and maybe you get a better answer.
I don't actually even know what the better answers are because they're not running Unstable Shadow Blast by my estimation.
Yeah, I mean, Second Touch, I guess, is the best I can come up with.
Okay, so it looks like Surrender's just piling onto the board here. Man, the damage is getting so scary. Kurtrus online next turn, and then ability to dig for Frenzy. Posesi is close to the finish line, but Surrender is close to setting up a double Scavenger wall as well, and healing for 6 with the Bristleback. It's really tight.
It is, and here for Posesi, no questions whatsoever. This is full face 100%. You're just trying to get next turn, maybe the turn after, lethal with Lion's Frenzy. And for Surrender, he's just 1 card off locking out the game. If he can get double Scavenger, double Bristleback, he's absolutely laughing. But he has 11 cards in deck rather than 10. So does he have to delete his own deck here with Soul Rend?
I think it's pretty good, right? He can double trade and then trade the Panthera into the 7/7, and then the Soul Rend brings him down to 9. I guess it's a little extra, but he gets to play 2 6/6s for free. I like it.
That is pretty good. When you put it like that, I think I'm back on board.
They will be 0, right? Because they got discounted by the Rod.
Yep.
So he can also play Occult Neophyte.
Play a lot.
2 Occult Neophytes.
That sounds great.
Pretty good. That means Posesi probably can't draw that much next turn, even with the Kurtrus discounts.
Okay, so just trading in to get the damage face, then you Soul Rend, and then the Bristleback can be used to clear off the minion. Okay, yep, great.
Yeah. So this optimization allows him to spend that last 2 mana on a Bristleback and get the healing. It's just better.
And even though there is the Librarian in the list for Posesi, I struggle to see how it's going to get through this much tauntage.
Well, there's a Frenzy, though. Can he stay alive with Immolation Auras and stuff? I mean, he's not dead on board, but you do want to... I don't know what quest surrenders on either, but if you can be alive versus quest for 3 damage, that'd be great. He cannot play around the Battle Master very well, no matter what he does, I think.
Oh, the problem is all his spells cost normal cost. You want them to cost 2 less at this point to really feel like you have a chance.
Yeah, I don't know what he can get. No Immolation Aura even, so... That looks like Surrender has managed to close this one out.
You go Lion's Frenzy to kill off one of them. I think you have to, and then hope that next turn you can go for, Royal Librarian to kill off the other, or to silence the other, sorry, and then send 16 damage face.
Like it. Again, sorry, not sure where Surrender's quest is at, but he has 15 on board. If he can complete quest 2 here, that's just...
Hey! I think that does it, right?
Man, Surrender pulling it back. It looked scary there. It felt like Posesi was about to complete the reverse sweep, but he gives the clap over to Surrender. Posesi tweeted out yesterday, it feels bad to have to beat Surrender again, if I'm understanding that right. But this time, Surrender has taken the victory and will be moving on to the top 4. I feel like Surrender's due for a weak win. It just hasn't happened so far, even though he's got more points than most of the rest of the field.
Yeah, he's gone, 3-3 in the first 2 weeks. So semi-final appearance twice in a row, and then top 8 the 2 weeks after that. Now, maybe we're going to be able to see him go for, as you said, a finals appearance, if not a victory, although we hope he can. I think very much up to his usual standard of play today. I loved the way he approached it. Again, like, for Surrender, I don't know what it is specifically about it. Like, a lot of players play well, but I feel like Surrender is the only player that plays well in a way that I never would. Like, I think I sometimes see the right plays from other players and they go for the expected lines. But here there were so many different lines that I would have taken so differently from Surrender, holding off on the Soul Rend for such a long time. And it just worked out great for him. Again, he tanked all that damage early on. He wasn't 100% prioritized on clearing the board every turn. He was just playing his own stuff, drawing through his deck, getting through to that point where the scavengers can close out the game. And that's what got him there in the end. It was a masterclass of this new build of Handlock.
Yeah, completely agree. I think Surrender, he often has the same immediate goal in mind as what we identify, right? Like, kill one brute this turn, that's probably enough. But the way he approaches it, finding the best way to kill the brute, going for Null instead of Soul Rend, for example,